Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. Back in the Xbox 360's heyday, Microsoft dropped the Kinect, a motion-based peripheral that, unlike the Wii, needed no controller to be used. Many games were made for it, like Kinect Adventures, but what about those that use the Kinect to enhance non-Kinect games? This was a trend where new games would get a Better with Kinect banner on the top of their cases, letting you know you can play it without Kinect, but it would be better with it. But how accurate is that statement? Were these additions wholly unnecessary, or did they legitimately make a game better? Today, I picked out some of the most interesting games with the Better on Kinect label, and I'll let you know if I thought they were any better or if the Kinect added nothing. This is not a list of every game, so let me know in the comments if you want to see another video like this and what I should cover. All footage was captured from an Xbox 360, and I want to thank my YouTube channel members for their support, but let's go ahead and hop into this one. Let's start off with a big one, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition. This came out in 2011 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Halo series. This game updated the graphics, but allowed you to swap to the old ones. It was the same shooter, and I love the first Halo, so I enjoyed this release. I got it in 2011, and it wasn't until a year or two ago that I found out that this game even had Kinect support. This game has a Kinect exclusive mode, which is insane to me. Most things you'll see today are ways to streamline the gaming experience, but this game has a mode locked behind Kinect. It's the library mode. See, when you're playing the game, you shout out "Analyze," and it'll bring up a technical overlay to your game. Some objects will be highlighted and you walk up to them and say "Scan." This will take that item and give you a 3D model and some lore to explore in another menu. There are over 40 items in the game to do this for, and it's completely unnecessary and doesn't do much for the game, but I think it's really neat. I liked reading through the lore, and it adds a new dimension to this old game. It's definitely not worth getting a Kinect over, but it's fun. The other half of the Kinect features is voice controls, which is something we will see over and over with the games today. This game allows you to reload, throw grenades, use your flashlight, pause, and resume the game. You just say those words and boom, it does it. Here's the issue though, there is a delay. You say reload, and then it takes some time to read that. And what might have been important a few seconds ago is not important anymore. See, the Kinect will hear you, but there's a slight gap between what you say and when it actually happens, and it ruins the convenience of voice controls in an action game like this. It's never faster than hitting a button. Because of that, it's never more convenient, and it doesn't really work well. It's cool, yet it's just novelty. There's even weirder stuff like being able to move your contrast and brightness up and down with your voice, which is weird, but kind of useful. But the voice commands just don't replace an instant button press, especially when there's a delay. So is Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary better with Kinect? Not really, but if you already have one, the scanning feature is at least worth looking at. The next one was probably the most heavily advertised one, Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, one of the most highly anticipated games of its generation. This RPG was a blast back in the day, and I've spent many hours in this one. I never tried the Kinect features here, and Skyrim is purely voice controls. This is just the default for a lot of big AAA games that threw in Kinect features. Skyrim boasts that it has over 200 voice commands, which is great. The biggest feature of the bunch is the ability to do a dragon shout. You could just say the name of the shout or speak the dragon language, so you can shout Fusro Da, and out comes a big push. This works with every shout, and it's pretty responsive. This is a nice quality of life improvement because you can use any shout without equipping it, so you just have to remember the names. It also just feels cool to shout these. Another gameplay update is being able to command where your companions move and stop, as well as opening their inventory. This isn't as useful to me, but it's nice that you can do this without a menu. And it's the same with saving, which is done through saying quick save, which is nifty. Speaking of menus, you can equip items from your hotbar by saying them, and also there's plenty of commands in the menus. You can say what category, and it will take you there. You can also organize categories by saying organize by value or organize by weight. It's pretty cool and sleek, but not quite as fast as you want. To me though, the best feature is the map. So the Skyrim map is giant, and sometimes finding the major cities takes a long move of the controller. Well, on the map, you can say the name of the city and you'll snap right to it. This is one of those times where saying it is legitimately faster and easier than getting there. This was convenient and what I would want from Kinect-enabled games. So I'd say this isn't a bad Kinect-enabled game. It's nothing game-changing, but shouting, sorting items, and the map are really nice additions. This is not a game that needs to be played with Kinect, but if you already have it set up and you're playing Skyrim, this will add to your gameplay. Forza Motorsport 4 is up next, and this is the fourth mainline Forza entry, which, unlike the arcadey Forza Horizon titles, it's also about the sleekness of cars in simulation. The controller-based gameplay of this one is simple, with you tackling a career and driving a vast range of vehicles. On the controller, this game feels excellent, and it's one of the sleekest racing games you can play on the 360. I also always like the menus in this entry with a streamlined approach, though this game does have voice commands for you to say, so you could say whatever menu category you want and it'll take you there. It's not much faster than a controller, but it's not a bad feature. The controller mode of this game actually gets a Kinect feature here. It has a head tracking mode where you can move your head either left or right in the game with the movement of your head. The reading on this is really solid, especially when you turn up the sensitivity so you can just nudge your head a little and you'll move. Personally though, I feel like the range of vision was pretty low. I wanted to be silly and just look completely away from the road, but obviously it's not going to let you do that. You can look out your left side window, but the right side you can barely see anything. I didn't find that it helped me much in races, but it's still innovative and forward-thinking on console. The feature that I didn't love was the no controller driving, where you hold up your hands and move them like a steering wheel. This is meant for a casual experience because all the braking, acceleration, and shifting are automatic. It's a novel experience of just driving a fast car with your hands. It picked up the movements well, but it's really hard on your posture, asking you to sit up straight with your hands forward, and it lost my hands quite a bit even at this posture. It's neat the first time around, but it's not a game replacer. I mean, the team that made this knows that, and all these Kinect driving modes are locked behind its own separate modes with zero progression. It's a try it once and leave it experience, or show a family member that doesn't play video games. The last feature is Auto Vista, which is the best feature here. You get to move around a selection of cars and look at it intimately. Simply moving forward and to the sides moves you around the car. Hovering your hand over doors or the hood will pop it open, and all these areas have multiple voice tracks to teach you about the car. I had a blast with this, and just looking at the car with your hands is a fun learning experience. This is available on controller, but it's not as fun. It's a bit more stable, but there's something cool about leaning forward and actually getting to look at the engine. It was neat. Kinect does make this mode better, and the head tracking is neat, but the hands-free mode is just a novelty. I'd say overall this wasn't a bad selection of things, and this is one of the better examples of actually doing something interesting with Kinect features, especially since it does more than just voice commands, but it's not a game changer. Here is another huge AAA title that pushed the Kinect functionality in ads and when it was leading up to launch, though Mass Effect 3 is all voice commands and nothing else. I remember being so hyped for this game and loving it up to a certain point, but then falling out of love with it in its final moments. I have never returned to this one until now, and it's just to try the Kinect features. The game itself plays well and is a good riff on the series formula up to that point. Kinect really has nothing to do with this though. Here you can pick up items by saying pick up, with a considerable delay that makes it pointless because you can just hit a button much faster. The game has the worst voice delay out of everything here. You will say a word and it takes seconds to register and do something. It makes looking at and picking up objects pointless with your voice. In combat, you can use your power by saying it, which has a delay, but it's not the worst since you don't have to use the quick menu, and you could say it instead of going through this slowly. One plus is doing that for your teammates. You just say their name and their powers, and then they will fire it in real time, removing the need for the slow menu, which I think is handy. The only issue is these powers go with your aim, and enemies move, and with a few seconds delay, they can be gone and make you say something pointless, where the menu pauses time and it allows you to aim and use a power instantly once you've pressed it. The idea for this is there, but the implementation is not great. This is another case of voice commands being too delayed to make this work effectively. Picking up objects with your voice is pointless, and the use of team members' powers with your voice is neat, but the delay does not make it work well. Mass Effect 3 is just not improved by Kinect at all. Let's change it up and look at an arcade game with Dragon's Lair. Not only coming out and being an arcade classic, it made its mark on the Xbox Live Arcade. I've always been a fan of this game with its beautiful movie-like animation from the great Don Bluth. I've never played this one, and I was surprised to see that it had an additional Kinect mode thrown into the mix. This is a QuickTime game, and all you have to do is move the stick or hit a button corresponding with what is happening on the screen. It's a tough game that requires precision timing, but it's neat to see all of the scenes that are packed into this one. The main mode plays well, but the Kinect mode works similarly. You move left and right, forward and back in your space, and you swing your arm to attack or reach up to grab ropes. Anytime the command pops up on screen, you have to match it. They tried to make it a bit easier by allowing for looser timing. When Dirk lights up yellow, you can do it, but you'll get less points. When he's green though, you'll hit it and get the right amount of points. Still, even with the looser timing, some areas have you doing extremely fast motions and you need to move all around. It is quite fun in all honesty. Moving with Dirk and hopping around is a great workout and a fun dimension to this game. The Kinect mode comes with a movie mode that doesn't matter if you miss and it only counts against your score, and it allows you to see the end of the game without losing lives. And then they do have harder modes with lives, and since it requires a lot of movement, these get tough fast. Do I think it's better than the original though? Not really. This game is meant for quick movements of the stick and precise timing, yet the Kinect edition isn't bad. It spices up the game and doesn't change too much here. Having the full game and then the Kinect mode as well helps it make a solid arcade release. Not amazing, but it's pretty good. Next up is a game that has garnered hidden gem and underrated status by many on YouTube over the years. It's Binary Domain, a third-person sci-fi shooter from the Yakuza team, which should signify some weirdness here. This game has a whole lot of ideas, but at its core, the shooting feels good, and blowing away robots limb by limb is a blast. It also has an 80s action flick story that's a lot of fun. But one major element of this game at launch was voice recognition. Unlike Mass Effect 3 or Skyrim, where it's very simple, here you could talk to your teammate from a giant selection of words. It's insane with a few nuggets of fun in there, like saying "I love you" just to shout it out to your teammate. Your teammate will react appropriately and move on. This does support both a mic and Kinect mic, and I would say in this case, stick to a mic because the Kinect could barely make out what I was saying. See, every other voice game might have had a delay today, but it never had trouble with hearing the words I was saying. This game could hardly recognize anything I was saying. I would say a word or phrase, and what would come out of the player's mouth would be nothing remotely like what I said. I tried for so long to mess with the settings to get it properly done, but it never worked. I read online that the voice stuff really works for a few select people, but it was completely awful for others, and I guess I end up in the awful crowd. Supposedly it does bad with certain accents, but I don't know. If it worked for me, it would be great. You can select from options in conversations and say them almost like talking to a character, striving for something like Project Milo, but not as advanced or fake. Yet, when it would constantly say the opposite of what I actually was saying, it felt like no fun. You can use a limited set of choices if you play with no mic, and I felt like that was better than Kinect. Just saying quick commands with the press of a button with no room for error is perfect, and it allowed me to focus on the great gameplay. I did not enjoy the voice commands in this at all, and it made for a worse experience for me. But if you can get it to work, I think this is a really neat addition to the experience. So I'd say this is better with Kinect, but only if you can get it to work. Next is Blackwater, a military on-rail shooter. I see this one come up in conversations about Kinect games because it's one of the few examples of a shooter on the console, though it's not a first-person shooter in a traditional sense. All movement other than ducking behind cover is automatic. I'm actually surprised this game has a non-Kinect mode because just like one more game later, this game is completely intended for Kinect, and the controller mode is far away from the enjoyment you're going to get from the Kinect mode. However, the game isn't amazing by any means. On Kinect, you move your hand and point at enemies. If you have ammo, you will shoot at them, and then you move your hand off screen to reload, and you move through areas, killing enemies for points. If you like on-rail shooters, you're gonna get the same experience here, just nothing really to spice it up. It works, and I had zero issues with the controls. One element I did like was the ability to sway your body to get behind cover or just peek out. There's something satisfying about just looking a little behind cover to look at enemies. I had some fun with it, but you're definitely not getting anything too fresh here. Yet, don't play this game on controller. If you're gonna play this, do it on Kinect. Sometimes in light gun games, using a controller for a cursor is fine, but here it's just a bit sluggish. Also, it makes the game painfully easy, making for a boring game. With Kinect, you have a bit more fun moving around, and also it's a bit tougher. I just found the on-rails experience without Kinect to completely lack any flavor. The game overall is mediocre with poor graphics and a bland setting for something on rails. It's fine on Kinect, and I had some fun, but if you do pick it up, let that be the only way you ever play this one. Next up is Dead Space 3, which is the black sheep of the franchise. I never see this one get much love, but I think it's worth trying. The co-op angle is really cool, and the setting is interesting. It's not as good as the first two, but it's still fun. I had never touched the Kinect features here, and it's another AAA game that feels like it has Kinect voice support shoehorned in just to have synergy with the recent Kinect release. Though I will say, this is the best example of that on today's list. Many times earlier on this list, I have complained about voice recognition being delayed. In my experience with Dead Space, that it was the least delayed of the bunch. Now, this may be because I've been inundated with these Kinect games recently, and to play one with a voice mode that doesn't take too long is just nice. It's not instant at all, and as usual, pressing a button is going to be quicker. But here you say it, and it happens pretty fast after you say it. You can just pick up items with your voice and you'll get it quickly. I really like when you slow down time with stasis and you just point and say it, and it'll happen in a timely enough manner to actually matter in game. Same with any of your push and pull abilities. Menu navigation is much simpler because you can just say inventory and boom, it's up. Same with any other menu that you can get to. You can switch weapons and reload with your voice, which is fast enough. Maybe I like the voice better here too because Dead Space doesn't pause in the menu screens. You open maps and the game is still running in the background. So it allows you to focus on gameplay, and you can just shout out if you need to heal or refill. I love that you could just find any objective by saying it and the line will appear to the nearest objective, which is a button on the controller, but through voice you can ask it for the nearest suit or repair station, which I think is a nifty feature. I didn't get to test the co-op features for this video, but it does have a feature where you ask for a med pack and different types of items, and it'll tell your co-op partner, which I think is a nice touch, especially if you can't hop into a voice chat with your partner. Though, I don't think any of the Kinect features are mandatory here. I did at least find them useful at moments. It's helped that the recognition was fast and easy, and it never got anything wrong, which is appreciated. This is one of those times where I felt like Kinect worked as a good supplement to a game that really isn't intended for Kinect gameplay. The next one I included because I thought it was a bit silly, and that's Angry Birds Trilogy, the pack-in of 3 Angry Birds games with the original, the sequel, and then the movie tie-in for Rio. I always thought these were odd because you can easily play these on your phone, and it's perfectly fit there. You simply fling some birds with your finger, and you hit pigs and bird cages. It's just that simple. Packing in a whole game around this seemed like a bit much. The game can be played with a controller. You can just angle back the stick, aim where you need, and shoot. This game is simple, which it never tries to be anything else. I would not play this on my console when I have other games to play, but if you need Angry Birds on your 360, it works fine. I had no issues, and the music is kinda cute. Though, we are here to talk about Kinect features, and I thought the Kinect stuff was miserable. This game is not intuitive at all. You take your hand, move it on the bird, and aim. Your hand, as seen through the Kinect, is never precise. Angry Birds as you move along is all about precision, and it feels like your hand just never can perfectly get it where you need it to be. and it just doesn't capture the same feeling of controller or the phone. Though, that's not its biggest issue. The way the controls make it seem is that all you have to do is move your hand to the side and open or close your fists to let it go. And that's not it. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to learn how to shoot in this game. After messing around for a while, you come to find out that you punch your other hand forward to shoot. And I don't like this because the quick movement of your other hand can allow for your other hand to move and once again lose a little bit of precision. It never feels right to shoot and play. Kinect here is a complete misfire, and I had no fun and I only had frustration playing with it. If you're going to play this, just play it on controller. The final game we are talking about today is another one I was surprised wasn't a Kinect exclusive and actually had the Better Than Kinect banner on its box art, Child of Eden. This is another on-the-rails game, but it's more like Rez, where it's a weird futuristic music game. You move from song to song, blowing up creatures, getting score, and moving to the beat of the music. It was developed by the same team that made one of my all-time favorite franchises, Lumines, and this is no doubt my favorite game we are talking about today. This game captures a neat experience that I feel like only Kinect could achieve, and it's fully creative. Where Blackwater was on rails, it lacked creativity or a spark. This one fully has that though. Like I said though, this is surprising to me that this game has a controller mode, and in my mind, this is a game completely made better with Kinect and should be played that way. On controller, this game is fine, but it's about moving the cursor on enemies and taking them out, and there's still a flow and spark there to make this game fun, especially with the gorgeous music, yet it works best on Kinect. Taking such an odd concept and moving around in a digital space, since the setting of this game is like an internet future, it's cool just to move along and shoot with the left hand and shoot a different style of bullets with the right hand, blasting to the beat of electronic music that is playing. It feels like a bizarro dance game for Kinect. The Kinect experience with the music turned way up makes for such a fun game, and this game is definitely better with Kinect in my eyes. On controller, it's fine, but the flow of the game just works better when following the rhythm with your body. To me, this game ranks up there as one of the best Kinect games, period. If you want an example of what was possible on Kinect, especially if you had a ton of creativity behind it, this is the best example of that. It's creativity and entertainment on full display. So overall, only very few times did the Kinect actually make a game better. There are good Kinect games like the one I saved for last, Child of Eden, yet a lot of these experiences just felt like it was shoehorned in. Like maybe they just did it to push more copies, or were influenced just to add some Kinect synergy, and they weren't focused entirely on it. It's cool to influence your game with voice or other small movements, but it's mostly auxiliary experiences that don't change the game enough or are much slower than a button press. Only on rare occasions was this implemented in a great way. Though there might be better examples of this, and tell me in the comments what I should cover next, because I will definitely release a follow-up if you're interested. But I do think that wraps up this video for today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more retro Xbox content, and check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for other retro content. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support, you really help out the channel. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.